Welcome to the podcast, Science of High Paid, High Performing, Happy Engineers, the show to help engineers develop all skills non technical. My name is Aditya Gute, and I'm a speaker and a performance coach for engineers to transform them into rock stars because I believe there's a rock star hiding inside each one of you, and it just needs to be brought outside to uncover your full potential as an engineer.
Hey guys, welcome to the show. Today we have Gilbert Eijkelenboom. 10 years ago, he was a professional poker player. Every day he was optimizing his decisions based on data and human behavior. He doesn't play poker anymore, but he's still passionate about numbers and psychology. While his academic background is in behavioral science, he has built a career in analytics consulting. Combining both worlds, he's founded the training company MindSpeaking, soft skills for data science and analytics. He also bridges psychology and analytical thinking in his book, People's Skills for Analytical Thinkers. This book explains about human behavior through algorithm metaphors. I personally have read the book, one of the great books, especially for analytical thinkers, engineers, and data scientists. Welcome to the show, Gilbert. Pleasure to have you here.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm really excited for this conversation. Also because the work we do has a lot of parallels, and I'm curious to discover more and looking forward to a great conversation.
Great, yes. So let's start with your story, Gilbert. You were a poker player, you had a major in psychology. In your book, you have also written about how you were shy. And now I've seen you speak before, you're a terrific speaker. So how did this transformation happen to you?
Yeah, I think it was a very long and sometimes painful process, but that's with all the personal development topics, I think. I think where it started was when I was playing poker, and I love playing poker because poker is a game of mathematics and analysis, and I love to do that because every time I need to make a decision, because I was playing online poker, every time I could look at the statistics, if someone was playing aggressively or folded a lot of hands, and based on that information I could make my decisions. But outside of poker, it was different because in conversations and while interacting with others, I didn't have those statistics that told me what to do. That's why it was difficult for me to interact. I was analyzing way too much. I was overthinking, and every time when I wanted to say something, I was evaluating my thoughts internally, whether it was good or funny or smart enough to say to the group, and whether it would contribute enough to the conversation. And because I was overthinking so much, I was not really connecting and not sharing myself, and that led to some issues. Firstly, while I was studying, it was harder to connect with people, and later also when I was working, because as I was working for Cognizant, a technology consulting firm, I also discovered that just analytical skills would not get me there. And while doing presentations, that really didn't work out because I was so focused. I brought all the data, all the rational analysis that I could find, but by not connecting to the people in the audience and understanding what's important to them, I was just in my head and really focused on the rational analysis, and that didn't work out.
And so, I could totally relate with that, right? I was an engineer for over 10 years, and I also, helped many other technical professionals. They're just in their head trying to figure out how to say the right thing. So how did that transformation happen to you, where you recognized what I really need is people skills and pursue that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it started in my student life, where I recognized, hey, sometimes when I'm thinking so much, it doesn't really work to have a good conversation, because when I focus on the other person instead, then the conversation is much better. Also, when I'm doing a podcast like now, if I'm thinking all the time about what I'm about to say, it's not working out. I just want to focus on you and have a connection, even though it's on the screen many thousand miles away. I think it works much better. And also, while I was in my job, I realized, okay, this is not going to work if I only focus on the analytical skills, the technical side. So then I started to read a lot of books. By now, I don't know how many, probably over 80 books about personal development and human behavior. And I'm fascinated by the topic because I think it's so interesting to understand how other people work and to realize that my own brain works so differently compared to other people's brain. and and that's how I started to work on myself, to discover a bit more about myself, what matters to me, and be more open and not be so much in my head.
Yeah, from what I'm learning is you faced certain challenges and you realize that things that got you to where you were is not going to get you to the next level, like overcoming certain challenges. And that's when you started focusing on other people more instead of just trying to figure out what's the right thing to do. So with other tech professionals, right, that you're helping right now, I see this same patterns wherein they're mostly focused on how to say the right thing, how to sound smart, and that has helped them for a very long time because it helped them become better engineers. So, at what point do you think uh, typically people have that shift, and do you have any suggestions on when people can have to start focusing on people skills?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it really varies per person when they discover it. Some people discover it quite early in their career, maybe in the few first years. But there's also people who realize in the last few years of the career that people skills are needed and there's more needed than the technical side. And maybe they figure out once they get reach like a certain level in their career. Some people also figure it out in their personal relationships or maybe with their spouses, where their spouse may say that they are not connecting and they're just in their heads and not only focusing on the rational side and not making the connection. And I think it's a common problem. And I think the first step to take for people that realize, okay, this is something I want to improve, I want to change, I think the first step is self-awareness. And in my book I outline a few steps that are common and very helpful to get more self-awareness. One of them is journaling, to write down what your thoughts are about your day, what went well, what didn't go so well, to have these small evaluations of your day. And it can be about the small interaction where you realize, okay, maybe I was a bit too shy, a bit too inward focused, and that's something that you can then optimize the next time. Or yeah, alternatively, you could also ask feedback, and asking feedback about yourself may seem daunting and may seem scary because people are going to tell you something that you already know, or maybe you don't want to know, or maybe something you don't know yet, and that can be very scary. But what I found is having a better understanding of yourself and optimizing, making the changes you want, can be very rewarding.
Yes, talking about the book, you have created the books content and sometimes in the form of diagrams, which are super easy to follow. It's probably one of the easiest books to read through and really absorb the contents of it. So, what went into the process of creating this book? And you mentioned a couple of things, which is that you've read many books, right? And would love to hear, how you were able to really break it down into something super easy for people to understand in the book.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, what I thought first, because last year I was on a trip around the world. At the moment I started the book, I was in Guatemala. And back then I didn't realize I was writing a book. I just wanted to write maybe 20 pages for analytical type of people like me who may also be struggling with these topics. And I thought, okay, I'll write 20 pages, a PDF document, and I'll see what I do. I just want to share what I would wish that I would have known when I started my career. And then I started writing and writing about all the stuff I learned. And all of a sudden, I had so many pages, more and more, 50, 100, 150. And then I thought, okay, this is not going to be a PDF. It's probably going to be a book. And it was quite difficult to make a coherent story about it, because 100 blog posts, yes, it costs a lot of time, but it's not that difficult. Writing a book, I think, to make a coherent story is much more difficult. But what I discovered along the way, while talking to all these analytical thinkers, these people that are the target audience of my book, who I'm trying to help boost their people skills, I discovered how many people struggle with these topics and how many would potentially benefit from developing these type of skills. Because next to the interviews I did with the analytical thinkers, I also talked with leaders in the industry. And I was quite surprised because almost all those leaders told me that technology is not the main issue, but the psychology is, and the people side of analytics and IT. And that made me think, okay, I'm really onto something. This is not going to be a book, just a PDF document of 20 pages or something for myself. It's going to be, I'm onto something, and it's going to be bigger. And that felt me motivated to write, although it felt quite vulnerable to do. And I'm happy I persisted.
That's awesome. And everything that you're saying, the number of interviews you did, the type of people that you have interviewed, the kind of books you have read, it shows in the book, how comprehensive the book is, and also the simplicity in which you presented some of the topics. In the book, you speak about listening to your emotions, right? Especially people who are naturally inclined towards analytical thinking. We often discard our emotions, and we were almost told that emotions are something you shouldn't be caring about. Don't make emotional decisions. So, but in the book, you talk about how emotions guide you in many different ways. So tell us a little more about that.
Mm-hmm. But what I can tell about that is the metaphor that I use is the elephant and the rider. And how it works is that you have this big elephant and a rider on top. A guy sits on top, or a girl. And the metaphor works as follows, because our brain is mainly operated by two systems. That's how you can see it. That's the research that Kahneman did. One system is the rational brain. It's the analytical brain. It's a bit slower, but it's very deliberate, and it's very good at analyzing situations. On the other hand, we have the emotional brain, and the emotional brain is more impulsive. It's emotional, of course. It's impulsive, and it wants to make decisions quickly. Now, how these two different brains interact is like the elephant and the rider, because the guy on top is the analytical brain, and the guy on top, of course, knows where to go. He calculated, he has a map in his hand, and he knows what is the best way to go. But the elephant down there is 70 times heavier. It's very, very difficult to get under control, and the elephant is impulsive and goes where he wants to go. Because while the guy on top sees, okay, this is the way to go, the elephant sees some food on the left and some distraction on the right. And that's how the elephant eventually decides what's gonna happen, because the rider on top can try to steer and nudge the elephant, but the elephant is much, much heavier. And that's the representation of our emotional and rational brain, because usually we know what is the right way to go, but often we don't end up doing that. For example, if you, after a hard day of work, you say to yourself, okay, tonight I'm gonna do a workout. But then after that day of work, you discover that you're sitting on the couch And then if you analyze that, you can probably sense where this is going. The emotional elephant says, yeah, well, let's chill for a bit. You worked hard, and you're also gonna justify your own behavior. And my argument in the book is that just pushing away all these emotions and neglecting it is a problem, because the elephant, because you're ignoring the beast that has all the power. So what I'm saying is that you need to recognize a bit better what's going on in your body in terms of emotions and all the biases that you have, so you can take away some of those biases. And by recognizing your emotions better, you also understand yourself better, and that leads to more self-awareness.
Love that. As a follow-up question, Gilbert, there are times when you are probably you're with a group of analytical minds. Some argument gets heated up, emotions show up, and there are times when emotions are coming from a place of frustration, hatred towards the other person, and there are times when emotions are coming from a place of genuine love, care for others. How do you distinguish the difference between those two?
Yeah, great question. And I think it's a question that is easy to answer but hard to implement, because once you get into these topics, get a bit more self-aware, understand yourself better, get feedback from others, do journaling, maybe meditation if you dare to. But by doing that, you understand yourself a bit better, and then you also understand the feelings in your body a bit better. So if you're in a meeting which takes very long and everyone is distracted and it's not going on point, maybe you can sense some tension in your stomach. And if you get more awareness of that, hey, I'm a bit frustrated, or I feel at least an uncomfortable emotion. If you can sense that, that's already a huge step. So instead of responding directly and getting very annoyed and so frustrated with the situation, if you recognize the tension in your stomach, then you can ask yourself, hey, what's going on here? Probably something is not in line with how I would like to see it. And then you can start to ask yourself some questions and discover what's happening. And then you probably find out, hey, this is because the meeting is not going as planned. And this is a very concrete example, but it can also be more subtle. Maybe someone asks you to help with a presentation or an analysis, and you're tempted to say yes. This is what I did a lot of times, and I said yes quite often, even though internally I felt not good about saying yes and to committing. And by saying yes, I felt a bit stressed because I had so many commitments and I did not have any time for my own projects and my own task that I was excited about. So by recognizing a bit more in the moment what's happening in your stomach, you can also change your behavior based on that.
Great answers. And you also outline some of the steps on how to build greater self-awareness, how to go a little bit deeper into yourself in your book. So, and last few questions, Gilbert. Now that you have acquired this wisdom, right, through your own transformation, and you can tap into your analytical skills and also emotional skills and people skills, how do you handle a conversation with a person who's primarily analytical, who's not in touch with the emotions and feelings and the people's part, skills part? Any experiences recently on how you handle such people?
So you mean how to interact with someone that is
very much how to interact and maybe even develop a connection with such people,
right? Yeah, I think what works best is if you understand where the other person is coming from. So what the more analytical person is not sharing as many as emotions because it's not comfortable. So if you're putting the spotlight on that person and ask to share a lot at once, it's probably not going to work because that person is not so comfortable with that. But by first showing that it's a safe space showing some vulnerability yourself, showing your emotions yourself without dumping all your emotions on that person, because that's unlikely going to work, but slowly revealing a bit more from yourself, then the other person will most likely open as well. And you can do those so step by step, first talking about a topic that is of interest to him or her, to have a comfortable conversation, and then slowly move a bit more towards a real connection beyond just factual stuff, because that's what we talk about a lot in our life. Facts, where this is where I went, this is what I did, this is what time I went there. But I think no matter if you are more emotional or analytical person, the strongest connection with other people we feel when we share more about the why. So why you did that, what's your intention, and what's your purpose. And those words sound quite fluffy, but if you say what you love about your work, or why you love your work, and what you love about your holiday, that's much more interesting than I went to Rome and I went there for 2 weeks and I went to the beach. That leads to a lot of boring conversation.
Right. I love the part that, if someone is uncomfortable sharing their emotion, just accept them for who they are. They're probably not ready. So you have to really gauge the feelings, gauge the energy, and play it accordingly. How much you want to share, how much you don't want to share, right? There's no logical answer for that. Say,
exactly.
Follow this formula, you will get this results. Last question, Gilbert. You also offer a free course on how to build strong relationships and strong connections with others and have great conversations. Can you talk a little bit about the course that you offer on your website?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, as I mentioned in the beginning, I struggled quite a bit with interactions with others and conversations, because I was focused so much on the content itself, what I would like to say and how I should say it. And that's why I started this year. I started a free email course, which is 16 emails. Every 3 days you get one email, and the idea is that there's some text in there that will cover one topic. It could be starting a conversation, or how to ask good questions, how to create a better connection with someone, how to improve your relationships, and also how to end the conversation. That can also be a difficult one. And throughout that course, I offer some guidelines, and I ask questions for you to reflect, because I don't really believe in, okay, this is what you need to do and that's the perfect recipe. What I believe in is that I want to trigger you to think for yourself and to try out stuff to see what works for you in your life, so you can make that change not just this week but for the long term as well.
I love that. There's some people who will be like, this is the only way and how you accomplish this result. But what you're saying is, I'm sharing you some perspectives. At the end of the day, it's up to you to figure out what works and what doesn't.
Exactly.
With that, Gilbert, any final thoughts that you would like to share with my analytical audience?
Yeah, I would love to connect with you. And then with that, I don't mean just connecting on LinkedIn, but I would be very curious to hear what your perspectives are, what your challenges are, what you've learned, and what works for you. Because I feel like we're all on a path, right? And analytical types, maybe to understand each other a bit better. And my biggest passion is to learn from others how they can grow more. And if I can help them only a tiny little bit with one question or one blog post or whatever, that makes my own life better as well. So that's something I would like to conclude with.
Amazing, Gilbert. As the world is expanding more in technology, what we really need is human connection. And that is something you're offering to this world. So I appreciate all the work you're doing to help the humanity through this technology age. And to reach out to you, Gilbert is available on LinkedIn and also the email. I'll be sharing both these links in the comments of this podcast, so you can reach out to him and connect with him.
Great. Thanks so much for having me today. I'm sure we're gonna talk more in the future, and I hope you have a great day. I like the map on the back, by the way. I like that. makes me think about travel, although I'm not able to travel right now. But it's time time for some travel again.
Exactly. Thank you again, Gilbert, for being on the show. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Thanks a lot.